Thank you for joining me. I was wanting to do a cinnamon bun tutorial. So here's my little cinnamon roll. And you can have it with a more see-through icing, or you could have it with a more white icing. So here we are. This is Primo Ecru rolled out to the second thickest setting on the pasta roller. I'm going to go ahead and cut a flat edge, and then I am going to do an angle from left to right, and I'm actually rolling this with my right hand just so you guys know. So I start with as tall as I'm going to want my cinnamon roll to be, and I make a diagonal cut. I'll show you in my hands upright so you can see it better. I know it's kind of hard to see laid down, but do you see how it goes from thicker to thinner? Okay, so that is going to be the outside of our cinnamon bun. I'm going to make a straight edge here, and now to add texture I'm going to use some flour. So I rub it in, try to keep it also from sticking in our later texturing. From here, I'm going to texture with a toothbrush, and I'm going to be somewhat gentle with it. I'm not going to do it too much, and you don't roll all the way to the end unless you want a really big cinnamon bun. If you want to do them even smaller, just roll it on a thinner pasta setting, like a 3 or a 4 from the thickest. And then I will just do this to help soften the texture we put in. And I'm going to get rid of some of this flour by just getting rid of that page. I usually work on multiple sheets of paper here. Okay, so the flat edge is towards us and the angled edge is on top, just in case you can't see it very well. And then I'm going to bring this other page slowly forward so you can see what I have going on here. Okay, so what we have here in the background is I have a yellow ochre, a rust, and a pale brown colored pastel. To make the pastel dust that's in the background, you just shave it off with your clay blade. And I'm taking a paintbrush here, and I dip it in the yellow ochre, and I bring the yellow ochre all along the top. And I actually add more color as I go further along. I even start adding it to the very end here. Then I start adding a little bit of rust in towards the top. That's an awful lot there, and it's sticking. And that's better. We'll spread that out a little bit. And add a little bit of brown in there too. Especially more towards the end. To help soften that little area that we got a lot of color on, I'll put a little bit more flour. Okay, so now we're ready for rolling our cinnamon bun. Right here in the background, right over at the left-hand corner, I have a cinnamon sauce for the inside of the roll. And then over here, it's harder to see because it's pale, it is icing. That is my Sculpey TLS. I put a blob in there, and all of this in the background is cinnamon. So I literally mix cinnamon straight with the TLS. So talk about cinnamon roll. You're actually using cinnamon in this particular project. So I will lay my sheet down vertical with the wide end towards myself, and I will start painting on this cinnamon TLS. It doesn't have to be too thick. You do want some towards the top of the bend. The bottom isn't as important. And after baking, it actually does smell like cinnamon. When you put the glaze over the top, it kind of gets rid of it a little bit, but it does smell like cinnamon for a while, so your cinnamon bun will actually smell like cinnamon. So there we go. Now I take a safety pin to help me start the roll. And you don't have to be too careful about the very edge. It's the very center of your cinnamon roll, so you're not really going to see it too much. So if the outside gets dirty, that's fine. But you're using it to start the roll. And let me angle it this way so you can see it better. Then I use it to just kind of help as it rolls for it to stay, because sometimes it will want to slip around a little bit. And then when it's about as wide as you want it to be, then we cut it. So there we go. So here we have our toasty ends, and I would even fill the top of the cinnamon bun up with a TLS if you have a space. And something that I think looks kind of nice, and you could decide whether you like this or not, but you literally go along the edges with a TLS in a very thin layer, just to spread some of the cinnamon on the outside. If you like it to be a little imperfect and more cinnamony gooey. So for here you would bake it. I would bake it for about 18 to 23 minutes, depending on how thick you have it. I did not make a in-process one this time. So when you are done, hopefully this won't get too messy. 1 second here. So after you have it completely baked and taken out and that it's cooled a little bit, then what I would do is paint on the icing. The icing is actually, it's pearl colored. It's pearl colored powdered food coloring, but you could actually use the Pearl X. Pearl X has some pretty pearl colors too. If you wanted just plain white icing, you could use white, but I would take a dry toothpick, and for about that much TLS, I literally pick up about this much on my toothpick and mix it in. And then, so once it's done, you would paint your icing on the top. Let it drip down the sides in a few places. Give yourself a nice gooey cinnamon roll. And it's ready to bake again. Once it's baked, you're all done. And I like to gloss the outside with a little bit of the triple thick, so that way it makes the cinnamon color deeper brown and it gives your Pearl X a nice shimmer. If you don't want the shimmer, just use regular white powdered food coloring instead of a pearl. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you liked this. I thought that cinnamon roll is a good breakfast food to try to do here. And thank you so much for joining me. Bye.